Welcome to r/Am I the Butthole, where OP's parents are spreading really weird rumors about OP's kinky sex life. Am I the butthole for avoiding my parents after discovering they were spreading super inappropriate lies about my husband and I? Last year, my husband and I met my parents, aunt, and uncle for Thanksgiving. As we were leaving, my aunt, who was visibly upset, pulled me aside and said, "I need to talk to you. Can you call me in a few days?" I asked if she was okay, and she said, "Yes, I just need to ask you something, but not now." When I called to ask what was going on, my aunt said, "I heard something that seems very out of character for you, and I want to see if it's true." Evidently, a few days before Thanksgiving, my parents told my aunt an untrue story about how my current husband and I met. It's worth mentioning that when I met my current husband, I was separated from my previous ex-husband. She explained that, according to my parents, I met my husband while online soliciting for a proposed threesome with my ex-husband as some kind of last-ditch effort to salvage my then failing marriage. However, during this threesome, my husband and I supposedly realized we had a connection which led to us being together while choosing to dissolve my previous marriage. My parents shared more gross details, but I'll spare you. I was shocked because none of this was true. We met at work through mutual friends, and our romantic relationship developed slowly over a period of time. I have repeatedly told my parents how we met, and even introduced our mutual friends to my parents at our wedding as the ones who got us together. So I FaceTimed my parents to ask them why they're lying about us behind our backs. They look me dead in the eyes and say, "Because that's what you told us." Excuse me? When I refuted this, my dad proceeded to get angry at me, saying that I must have amnesia because my mom stormed off, refusing to discuss the issue. The rest of the call was me sitting in silence while my dad attempted to gaslight me. I'm dumbfounded. A few days later, I get a call from my cousin. She explains that my dad told her husband the same story almost 8 years ago, which they had believed until now. My cousin apologized for not saying anything sooner, but the story made them so uncomfortable they didn't know what to do. My husband and I wrote my parents an email explaining what we discovered, and we asked them some simple questions like, "Why did you make this up? Who else have you told?" etc. We've been emailing them back and forth for almost a year and gotten nowhere. Their story keeps changing, the blame keeps shifting, and they have continuously tried to diminish the seriousness of the issue, even saying, "No one thinks any less of you because of it." But what? It never happened. Period. The only apology we've ever gotten is, "We're sorry for upsetting you." You mean you're not sorry for lying about your daughter for 10 years? More recently, they've almost demanded that we forgive them and move on. Since we haven't forgiven them yet, they think that we're responsible for my mother crying all the time and essentially breaking the family apart. So, am I the butthole for wanting to continue to avoid my parents even though I'm tearing the family apart? Okay, let's imagine something. Let's imagine this story is actually 100% true, and this is how OP met her husband. In that case, why on earth would OP's parents spread this story to anyone who would listen? That's an incredibly inappropriate story to share, and it's not their story to share either. So even in the best case scenario, your parents are still the butthole, but then you add in the whole level of them lying for no reason and gaslighting you and getting angry at you and victim blaming. This is bizarre. I'm trying to figure out what your parents are doing. Are they trying to sabotage your relationship? Are they just on meth? I can't even come up with a logical reason for why they would want to do this. OP, I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your parents 3 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for buying a cake that the child behind me wanted? My pregnant wife messaged me at the end of my work shift that she had a sudden craving for cake, and I was more than happy to get her one. Unfortunately, since this was close to 6 p.m., the bakery only had a Swiss roll left in terms of cake. As I was selecting a few other breads, a mother and her daughter came in, and the girl noticed a Swiss roll in the display cabinet and shouted that she wanted it. However, I had already ordered it, and when the worker took it out for me, the girl started screaming and crying. The mother did initially ask if I could leave the roll for her, but I said that I ordered it first. The mother then got extremely demanding, saying that I don't need to buy it, "Can't you feel for a kid? How selfish," etc. It only stopped after the worker said that I had come first and I ordered it before the mother and daughter even walked in. I got home and I told my wife the incident. She said that I was a bit of a butthole for not giving up the cake for the kid, and that she would have understood if the store had no more since I did buy other sweetbreads. Or I could have just gone to the supermarket instead. She also asked me why I didn't tell the mother that I was buying the cake for a pregnant wife with cravings. I didn't see the need to share private info, but my wife said that maybe the mother would have understood, and that I appeared to be insensitive by sticking to ordering first as my argument. We did end up enjoying the Swiss roll, and she told me not to worry, but just be more mindful next time. But I can't help but feel a bit guilty. Was I the butthole for denying a kid a cake that she wants? Okay, let's imagine for a moment that we got together 1,000 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, and 10-year-olds from all over the world, and we tasked these kids with coming up with a set of rules that all kids should follow. Kind of like a schoolyard Bill of Rights. Now, what would you imagine these kids would add to their Bill of Rights? You know, rules like, whoever smelt it, dealt it. Another rule would be no takesy-backsies, but I think probably the number one, the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights would be, I got here first. I think that's a sacred rule that all kids everywhere understand. So for this kid to get all, wah, 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 I want the cake, I'm a kid, I deserve the cake, well, too bad, loser. OP got there first, and as the sacred rule says, I got here first. So OP, I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving the mom in the store 1 out of 5 buttholes because it's very entitled of her to assume that her problems are a bigger deal than your problem. What if you were buying the cake for a kid's birthday? That would make it way more important than her screaming kid, but she was just being entitled. I'm also giving your wife 1 out of 5 buttholes because you were being a nice husband. After a long day of work, you went out to get the cake that she requested, and then when you did it, she criticized you for something that's not even your fault. Am I the butthole for refusing to let my wife name our kid something stupid? I'm a 25-year-old man. Me and my 23-year-old wife are having our first child together. She's currently 9 months pregnant and could give birth anytime in the next couple of weeks. The only major fight that we had throughout her pregnancy happened a couple days ago, and it was about what we were going to name our kid. It all started when we found out the gender of our baby. We didn't do a gender reveal and decided to find out the gender at one of her checkups because we didn't want to spend time making 2 lists of names and then have to get rid of one of them. So after we found out that we were having a boy, we sat down together and made a list. Almost all the names she suggested were normal, until the one that caused me to write this post. She suggested that we name our son Mune. Okay, quick side note here, guys. This is spelled M-U-N-E, like Dune, but with the letter M. And I actually looked up how to pronounce this, and I don't know if it's Moon or Mune. It's from a movie, and I actually watched a clip of the movie, but but no one said Mune's name, so I still don't know how it's pronounced. And also, in my quest to try to figure out how to pronounce this word, I discovered that Mune means breast in Japanese. So back to the story. She told me the name was from this movie she watched when she was younger and that it always stuck with her. I told her the name was a little out there and he would get made fun of for it. She claimed that he wouldn't, and we started going back and forth trying to decide whether to add the name to the list or not. Eventually, she agreed to keep the name off the list, we picked some names that we liked, and I thought that was that. Later on in her pregnancy, her mom decided to throw a baby shower because it was her first grandchild, and my wife's pregnancy was almost over and we hadn't celebrated once. It was fine for the most part, until we started opening the gifts. Most of them were normal baby things like diapers and bottles, until we got to her mom's gift. My wife opened the gift bag and pulled out a blue handmade blanket. It seemed normal enough at first, until my wife unfolded it, and lo and behold, there was the name Mune written on the blanket. When I saw it, I was pissed, but I didn't want to cause a scene, so I stayed quiet. After that reveal, I had family members come up to me to ask me about the name and why I hadn't told them. I didn't know what to tell them because I didn't have a clue about this either, and I just had to embarrassingly tell my family that, which pissed me off even more. Once the event ended and me and my wife went home, I started to question her about the name. She got defensive and told me that it was a good name and that I was overreacting about it. I brought up the earlier points and told her it was a stupid name for a kid, and if she wanted to name something Mune so bad, she could use the name for a dog. She got upset and called her mom to come get her. After she left, she called me and told me that she wouldn't be coming back for a while. Everyone I've talked to about this said that I'm not the butthole, but now that my wife has been gone and I've been thinking about it, I feel like I could have handled the situation better. Am I the butthole? Okay, quick edit. I felt bad that I couldn't find how to pronounce the name, so I did some more digging, I found the trailer, and it's pronounced Moon, not Moone. Okay, so regarding the name, naming kids is a very basic 2 yeses, 1 no situation. If you want to veto the name, you get to veto the name, because it's your kid too. But to me, the real problem here isn't the name, it's that your wife is trying to do some weird power play to get what she wants out of you. It's really scummy of her to undermine her own husband and the father of her child by telling her family that they agreed on a name when clearly you haven't. Then, when you call her out on it, she tries to guilt trip you and leaves the house at 9 months pregnant? Look, there are times in a relationship where it's very justifiable for one person to leave because things are getting heated, but to basically emotionally blackmail a father, a soon-to-be father, and say, I'm leaving and I'm taking away your unborn child because you're not giving me what you want is extremely immature. OP, I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your wife 2.5 out of 5 buttholes, and I have to say, good luck, buddy. If this is an indication of what she's going to be like as a wife and a mother, then you're in for a rough ride. Also, I have to wonder if there's a little bit of gender bias going on here, because maybe girls don't make fun of each other's names, but boys 100% do. Definitely, no doubt about it. So maybe she doesn't realize that it's a problematic name because, she lived life as a girl, but life as a boy is very different. Am I the butthole for telling my wife that my son will always come before her? I'm a 32-year-old woman, and my wife, who's 30, is concerned about our financial situation. I think her concern is misplaced, but I told her my income isn't going to change anytime soon, so I asked her what she wanted to do about it. She suggested that when my son turns 18, we should start charging him rent. I immediately shut down that idea and told her we'd have to think of something else because there is no way I'm charging my son to live in our house. She said that it was reasonable since I'm paying most of his college tuition, but I told her there are alternatives. I suggested we stop eating out so much because it's like $50 to $100 per meal, but she didn't like that idea. I suggested other things, which she rejected, so I told her I'm open to suggestions, but my son isn't going to be our source of income. She told me that I should think more of her than my son. That made me a little mad, so I told her my son will always come before her. She called me a butthole after that and hasn't talked to me since. Did I overstep? And then, oh man. Alright, down in the comments, someone asked OP, does she work? And of course, she doesn't work. Oh man, you can just smell the hypocrisy in these posts. Well, OP, I think you found your solution. OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes for having your son's back. Your hypocritical wife gets 2 out of 5 buttholes. If she's so concerned about money, then she can go find herself a job. Am I the butthole for telling my in-laws that it's on them to explain to their guests why there weren't any places for them at the wedding reception? I married my husband last weekend after a year of planning. The ceremony went off perfectly, even with kids in the church. We had no issues with the photographer, no one got drunk and wrecked anything, no one insisted on bringing their emotional support goats. The only hitch was that my in-laws invited about 10 extra people without telling us. They're not relatives or anything, just friends of theirs that we didn't invite since we don't even know them. I didn't notice them at the ceremony, and it wasn't until the reception that there were issues. There was no seating for them. Our best man and groomsmen found a folding table and chairs for them to sit at. There was food since we had a buffet, but since we sent the tables to eat by number and they didn't have a number, they were sent last after everything had been picked over. My in-laws were embarrassed that their friends were being treated that way. I very politely asked them what they expected when they invited people without telling the people planning and paying for the wedding. They said that we needed to go apologize for their bad treatment. I said that I would, but I would also have to explain to them that they hadn't actually been invited. I said that if they wanted their guests told anything else, then they had to go explain themselves. They were upset with me. My husband has my back 100%. I think I could have been more gracious, but I also think that it shouldn't have fallen on us to deal with. Yeah, I'm on UOP. What were they thinking? That you would just magically have a spare table and spare chairs and spare number arrangements and spare food to give them? What your in-laws did was buttholy, but also just plain stupid. I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your in-laws 2 out of 5 buttholes. That was r/Am I the Butthole. And if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.